We're at the Morgan Myrick house.
The brick mason started out using
With owner Bob Carr,
what?
Al Honeycutt, and
Started
John
out,
Wood.
there's a row of headers and there's a big queen closure. But here's the queen closure for two times.
Looks like it skips this one here.
And then you've got reed pointing, and this is a king closure. Then the queen. Then 1, 2, 3, and a king. King where the queen normally would be. And then a king. And then a queen. And then a queen and a queen and a queen.
Pretty consistent from there on.
Quite some way. But he was using a combination of king closures and queen closures. And not a single window in the west end. And yet you have the struck joint, you have the penciled struck joint, penciled with the white lime wash. The mortar itself was pretty hard and pretty light beige, and I'm not quite tall enough to get this loopy on some real good original. That's original. That looks like a good spot. You see the big things of
Yeah, that's all over this.
of lime, but John, as tall as you are, can you see the oyster shell anywhere? Where's the dark oyster shell?
I don't really see anything that...
The oyster shell.
You don't see a whole lot.
But he just saw
Pretty sandy mortar, isn't it?
Yeah, really sandy, a lot of fairly coarse
Yeah,
aggregate
there's a lot of little hard white chunks in it,
Right.
but they're not shells, I don't think. They're just
It doesn't seem to be.
like blobs of...
Oh, wait.
now there's a shell right there. Back in there.
Okay, I see what's the point.
Most of it's these blobs of lime.
That almost looks like uncrushed lime.
Well, now it may depend on the quality of the burning of the oyster shells, how fine they did that. Because at the race store, the Wheeler House, and here at the
Morgan Myrick.
Morgan House.
How do you have any... How big are these bricks? I thought I had measured one time at 7 3/4, but yep.
7 and a little over 7 and a half.
7 5/8. Yep.
7 and a half.
So they're smaller than the
7 and a half. 7 and a half. Seven and a half. That's basically what we were finding at the Wheeler House and at the Ray store. They are a thin brick, and yet 2 1/4. That's exactly what we found at the Wheeler House and the Ray store.
So they're little...
And they are hard-fired bricks. They were pressed, and you do not get much of a mold mark like you do at the Peter Williams house and at the Hertford Academy. And so there was a lot of pressing of the brick, apparently, but here is a mold mark, but that's unusual.
That's pretty rare up there.
Once these were in the wooden molds, they must have used some sort of paddle to press them pretty firmly. And they took some care not to have a mold mark. You basically have a red brick, although we know this has received a red wash late 19th century like every other brick house and the Roberts Vaughan brick chimneys. They all received that red wash late 19th century.
Now this fellow Weeks has a formula for that. He applied it to that Murphy law office. That was rewashed, as it were, when it was restored. But it had the same.
Neil is a talented brick restoration contractor. In his repointing work at the Wheeler House, he mixed his formula based on what we had gotten from the National Park Service and supplied to him. And there, the lime with a little bit of Portland cement mortar failed. Jack Peach, when he had a masonry workshop at the Chowan County Courthouse, he had two of them. The first one, it was pretty hot. We were on the waterfront of the building where there was a lot of sunshine.
South side.
South side, and so the mixture that he worked up was basically the same formula. And the first time, that mortar failed. The next year we went back and raked those joints out and redid it and kept the brick more moist, kept them wet. And that held up.
Yeah, it must have leached the water out of that joint real fast or something.
But I've cautioned the staff, and most of them do it though, when they have to make recommendations for repairing a chimney or a masonry building, they'll send out that formula. God only knows who is going to take it and use it. And I am much happier using a repointing mortar prepared in a laboratory like at Riverton, Virginia, the Flamingo repointing mortar. They've been in business of some sort there for about 300 years. They have wonderful natural limestone that they're using. And their repointing mortar is not too strong. And it holds up beautifully. And I'd rather use that than to send a mixture, a formula to somebody, and you have no idea. They don't know what they're doing, and whether it's going to work or not, and whether they will wet the brick and keep it wet while they're repointing.
Oh, I had a man working for me in New England, the first house we did, and we moved all those little odd bricks. He soaked those bricks, every one of them were soaked before he put them back in.
That's essential.
Al, notice great two different types of lightning brackets, rod support,
Yes.
right together.
There's one that is shop made, that is wrought iron, and then one that is much more modern.
Yeah, that one to the lower left is real late.
Yes, it is.
For this house, I was taking old carving in the 1890s, and the dentals, you can actually see some of them now. It had been painted white. That whole row had been painted white with decoration on top of that.
Over it. This is at least 2,700 psi, whereas you need, see how soft the original is? About 700. Well, therefore, in the freeze and thaw cycle, over a period of years, you're going to find that a brick like this and the salmon colored brick here are not going to survive.
The face will fall off again.
The face will fall off. Here it's already happened, although that's not this real hard around there, but it's already happened to that salmon colored brick.
A lot of this was done, they had some idea about restoring this house back in the early 1970s, and a lot of this patchwork was done. I don't know who did it. I have no idea. But Jack Pete said he can, as a device that'll take that out to an inch deep or so, and then you can re-point it. But I don't know whether they. I don't think that cement's probably more than much over an inch deep.
No, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be. And so Jack says that he could remove this.
He says he can take it out. It's a grinder type of thing he has. I've never seen it work, but he says he can do it.
Is it a grinder or is it that
Pneumatic
thing that he used?
chisel.
Yeah. That's kind of a chisel. But Jack Pete would take great care.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to get these cracks taken care of. I could if I could find some brick.
Where was it? Oh, right here. There's a very bad feature that is original, where you've got the two mortar joints
Almost
lining
in
up,
line,
and this
yeah.
one over here.
Yeah.
In that particular case, it has not failed, which is unusual. Where you've had a failure was across here.
Well, what had happened, how it caused that big V shape, that whole interior chimney had collapsed almost from the ceiling of the dining room, or the dining room, into the basement. And there was hardly any brick left inside back here. It was almost down to one course of brick.
Tell them Dave Fichetti's theory, which is
Well,
kind of
Fischetti-
interesting.
Yeah, Fischetti, I hired him along with Shirley Van to look at this place before I bought it. He said it was basically okay, but he said that one of the problems he had with this wall was it had shifted relative to the front wall, and he said it was differences in coefficient of expansion between a wall that's hot all the time and a wall that's cool all the time.
There would be a difference.
Yeah.
There definitely
And he
would
said
be a
that's
difference.
part of the reason this chimney, this wall had failed. the way it had. And
They
it
had, of course, the queen closure and the queen closure. Very quickly, he goes to the king closure, the 3/4 inch brick, and then back to the queen, and then the king, and then back to the queen. He was not consistent at all, except he was consistent here in his inconsistency.
Consistently inconsistent.
Hey, that's
Then
arguable.
a king, and then another king, and then another.
Well, he got those queens in there pretty regularly all the time.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
I'm not even there. Up above that, they just sort of overlap and on. That I think that a lot of that damage occurred when they put that almost full-length porch on here.
You need some paint, Bob,
I need a whole lot of paint on that corner.
on that cornice right there before it takes too much more moisture.
Well,
Catch it when it's dried out.
I've actually replaced that board once with a pressure treating. That's why it's not any worse than it is. But the water collects, even though there's that roof that's got about a 1 inch run in it, it collects in those corners and comes off. Not like that.
Well, it appears that you've got that little molded area that's much smaller than at the Peter Williams house and at the Murphy Law Office. But you do have.
Al, what's that? You were talking about that band around the outside? I'll tell you what it is.
What is
It's
that?
literally a dowel that's been flattened on the back side. And every window here is like that.
And then applied.
Yeah, it's about yay big, and the back side of it was plain flat, and it was nailed in against that to close that.
Well, it's a similar treatment to what you have over there, and yet it's very much different too.
Well, it's not, it doesn't run into that. It's fastened to that frame, that case. And it's that way throughout. So I think that's probably the way it was made.
Closures. under where he wasn't supposed to. But then,
There's a guy that really knew his work.
but then he used the king closure also, and then up further he used the queen, 1, 2, 3, and then a king. 1, 2, 3, and a king. 1, 2, 3, and a king, and a king, and then a queen. So there again, he was varying. I think that again is a late sign. It's probably 1826 or 7 or so.
I don't really have any idea how long Morgan lived here before he sold the place.
And around his front entranceway, the queen closure basically was not used. You would think that at that instance he would have taken great care. It had been the mason at the Hertford Academy, where he was so careful on his chimneys to get the queen closure in the proper place, and on the corners of the building. But it's just a different brick mason. It's not the same one.
No, that's for sure.
Now the question is it the same brick mason that laid the 3-course American over at South Hall across the street in 1817, or in the Peter Williams house, which is about the same date of about 1817, 1820. Is it the same mason? It could be, with frames.
Yeah.
But it's strange. Look at this one running in this direction. Whereas here you have what we were seeing over at South Hall. And up here.
See what we're
What
talking
is
about?
that on each side?
I'll see if you can figure it out, Al.
What is that?
I know what it is, but I'm not sure exactly how it was used.
Is it
It's a
for
bracket for a lantern,
Latin?
and that keyway in there, Al, is tapered. It's wider at the top and bottom, so that it's either a hanger of some sort for a lantern wedged into that, or it was a fill, a sleeve that flipped over. But I think because the shape is more likely it was just something that slipped down into that keyway. Because you'd have to have the fill would have to be locked.
This is a very strange use of the queen closure in what should have been a total stretcher course, just as this was total stretcher except the headers at each end. This one is total stretcher. And then you come to this one where he uses the queen closure in 3 places. And then in the course, that's the header course, he uses a stretcher when he needs more than a header. A header would have given him serious problems right here. And then he ended with a king closure. Then 1, 2, 3, he ended with a king closure. He started with the king closure, but he kept a header pattern. And then up here, started with a king closure and ended with just a closure, a brick, regular size, header, which may have been chopped though. It looks like it was. And then he started with a king closure up there. So this man, the thing that really was his guide was, I'm not going to have any mortar joints lining up, and yet we saw that in where he definitely had to. But basically here, they all are staggered the way they should be. But he had to do various things to maintain that pattern. And here he started with the king closure. King closure. King closure. King closure. And there, the headers worked out fairly well for him. So of the three masonry houses that we've studied that had the three-course American bond, we have a variance in brick size. Frank's brick was predominantly 8 inches. Is that correct? At Southall, 8 inches. And the Peter Williams house was 7 3/4.
Frank's was 7 1/4 to 7 1/2.
Oh, it was the very same as the Wheeler house and the Ray store.
Right.
And at the Peter Williams house, were they 8 inches? 8 by 2 1/4.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where the 8-inch one was used. And here, Bob's is basically 7 1/4 to 7 1/2. Same size as in Frank's house and in Ray store and also Wheeler house. And yet here you have kind of a pressed brick that does not have much of a mold mark at the top.
Just
But
like
the
at Frank's
Peter Williams
house.
house had a pretty pronounced mold mark.
Mm-hmm.
But at Frank's house, they did not have a mold mark. They were kind of pressed. And therefore, your brick and Frank's brick are the same size. Could have been laid for the same brick mason, but you've got a 10-year difference probably. And so who knows? Who knows? But it could have been the same mason. And we, 1820s.
20s.
Okay.
I never,
I think that's
I figured that was fair. It could be, it's a
reasonable
10-year stretch, really.
reasonable date to put on this.
But this house had shutters on it for a long time, though. Look at this. That's where that edge shutter probably got bowed a little bit and worked a little against that. See the line all the way down here. And John, you're a woodworker. You want to see an interesting thing? See that reeded ceiling that's in that arch up there?
Right.
Those are individual pieces, and they're just the width of a good-sized reeding plane. So I think he planed the board as wide as he could with that reeding plane, and then cut the pieces, and they're all tacked in with little brads. And they use the same thing inside on the mantels upstairs. Those pieces were made like that and cut off in short sections like that, butted against one another to form a reeded line across the mantel.
Now tell me this, aren't they about 4 inches wide?
Just about now, yeah.
Okay.
Now, I'll tell you how I came onto that. I never paid any attention to it, but I was up in the attic, and down between the joists against the lab, over against the edge of where the foot of the rafter was, I found a clean piece of it that had never been used. Had been cut to use this way, and it was just laying up there.
Well, shall we take a look inside?
Yeah. It actually has the, what do you call that? Capital? It actually has the capital cut into it.
At the main Bennett house had the taper like that, but they were heavy at the beginning. And then up at the Capitol, you do not get that molded area around there. You just kind of get a Capitol this way. Well, what do you use?
Now, I'm convinced that what happened here was Mr. Jones was in town, and on this house, this little frame structure could have been sitting somewhere else on the property, and he moved it over, jacked it up. But these porches, I think, he created as part of that. And inside, he did the redid the first floor to dandy it up a little bit. And that's when that Greek Revival porch was put on the front of this place. I think it was a
Camille Jones.
sort of an overhaul job that he did.
You said you found some early nails?
They were in the upper part of this building, Reed, because I think these windows have been enlarged to match. This little house had end chimneys at one time, and was sitting somewhere separately, and they pulled over. Of course, they took the chimney out and butted against this house. At the same time, they tore off the back porch. But I believe these windows, from what I could see in the framing, were smaller.
Smaller.
And they are now the same size as the windows in the main.
The east second floor room in the Morgan house, in Bob Carr's house, and the mantle in the east room is Federal in style, with the reeded pilasters and the smaller reeding carrying across the top. It basically reads as a three-part mantle, although the shelf is continuous and does not project out. It's a very handsome mantle. It is vernacular and is well designed and well made. The window treatment is somewhat typical of what we're seeing in Murfreesboro, in that the molding here is molding that we have seen in some of the other buildings, and I'm drawing a blank. We saw a large version of this on one of the buildings, and then inside a smaller version like this backband molding. But it basically is Federal in style. Here you have splayed windows with hand-planed boards on the sides. You have 6/6 sash, and the sash are pegged in the corners and are what I assume are original, and they are Federal style. You have the same on the front. And you have a chair rail, plastered dado, and a beaded baseboard. The chair rail is basically Federal style. The pine flooring at the second floor level is fairly narrow boards. They do not appear to be gauged. This board is smaller than this board for sure. This one's smaller than this one. But they are pretty close in the size. They'll probably vary from about 5 inches to maybe 7 inches. The door surround is original. It is mitered. The backband molding, and this is a three-part door casing with the bead and this molding, and then this backband molding applied, forming the three parts. And it is all basically Federal style. This tiny little bead here is different from what we have seen in some of the other three-part door casings today. But this is definitely Federal style. And yet, the raised panel Georgian door with the molding made right onto the rails and stiles. In other words, it is not tacked on like you would find in the Federal style doors, the flat panel doors. These are raised panel Georgian doors, pegged pegged, one peg, and I cannot tell at the top. One peg it looks like at the top. There should be at least two pegs in the lock rail. It's kind of hard to see them though. Now the secondary side of the door is flat panels, and they are mounted with butt hinges and appear to have always been mounted with butt hinges. But the basic style of the door is Georgian. However, this molding here is a little smaller and a little fancier than what you normally see in a Georgian door. Butt hinges and the surrounds, all of that is original and is basically the same as we saw in the East Room.
And this is one place where the original labs are still in place.
Wow. How wonderful. Isn't that something? The attic stair with this center round
Prototypical circular stair.
Pole. Now, Bob, how far does that pole run? You said it
Just between floor and
just
ceiling.
between floor and ceiling.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'll tell you something interesting about this closet floor. That floor, even though it has planks on the side, underneath of it is a solid piece of pine. That entire floor is one piece of pine about 3.5 inches thick. I have photographs of that I took before it was plastered over on the bottom.
Well, out in the hall, you have wider boards than you do in the East Room. And the vertical laths here, can you get this on camera and read?
Oh wow.
The vertical laths that form
This.
the circular wall outside of the closet is quite interesting in that they're rived and extend from the floor as far up as you can see. Looks like they probably go between floors. Do not see a nail. The
There's
saw
some nails
marks.
under.
The saw marks in the stair risers are frame sawed. They're straight across the board, about 1/4 of an inch cut. Shine your light up here.
I think most of the fences.
Okay. The nails through the treads into the riser are cut nails. Here are more vertical pieces with nails at the very top, which I just have to see. You also have nails here. What they appear to be cut nails. Now, what do we have
You get torn up going up there, okay?
up here? At the very top. Can you bring it? You can't bring it any further.
Yeah, I'll have to get the extension cord.
Okay, but they appear to be cut nails. They are not handmade. And that's what you would expect for this 1820s period. But it is an interesting way to get to the attic. When I asked architects how I could do this in my house, they didn't like this idea of a circular stair, because I guess they knew I'd be taking big boxes. Big boxes would be a problem.
Now the framing, the attic framing is a real wonder. each end where the hip starts is what I call a hanging post. So 5 timbers come into that post, and then it hangs down with a great big tenon at the bottom that drops through the joist with a big pin driven through it.
Kind of king post.
So it's really an interesting piece of carpentry up there. And you can't slip a playing card in any of those joints. It's
Wow.
Beautiful.
Here's the original. Is interesting. 9/9 sash. The buttons are really quite heavy. Pegged in the corners. And it is a very interesting window with the very same molding detail as the doorway.
And that was where that sill was. You had to replace a sill that was so worn.
That's the sill that was almost worn through. This large window is repeated on the back side of the house in the same position.
Was there ever a porch out in the back?
Yeah, Reed, there was a porch, but the porch in the back was offset, not underneath of this window. And I
Okay.
don't think it was utilized in any manner as a platform
Like this was.
How is this attic stair supported?
How
It's
that-
just hanging.
There's a big timber sitting right in here, and there's one right back there, and the bottom of that whole, whatever the heck you want to call it, is a solid one piece of pine that thick, and it just is mortised in to those 2 big beams.
Well, that is an interesting.
And those joists that form the cantilevered roof for this porch are dovetailed into that same beam here. Big, wide dovetails. And they carry right through the masonry to form that cantilevered platform all the way across this hallway.
It's a heavy chair rail. It's lighter in the rooms than what you have here. The baseboard is very simple in that it has a bead at the top. There has been a shoe mold applied
Right, that was
probably
not
in the
original.
20th century.
That was not original. But it helps
The
with the
Georgian raised panel door for the west room appears to be original, and it is original. And the window surrounds are the very same as in the east room. You have a partly interior chimney, which is built into the wall of the house itself, but it creates a space for closets at the second floor level. And the doors are original. They are raised panel Georgian. They're mounted with butt hinges, and you have an over storage area with 2 raised panel doors, with a door that has 2 raised panels. And the back bend molding is the very same around all
That
of
looks
this.
very New England up there, Al. It's almost as though whoever lived here was from New England or had lived in New England for a while.
Well, now, the door looks new up there,
Hey, you got it out.
and even the surround is new.
I'll tell you what, no, the surround's not new. It's older.
The surround looks old.
But the problem there was, these old houses had no closet space. The
Oh,
2
yeah.
bottom doors are original, and the
yeah.
closets are original. But we were wasting about 50
Sure.
cubic feet up there, so I Mickey Mouse that and made up that top door and hung it up there. So we store all manner of stuff up there. I mean, a pile.
Great.
Oh, you got it. It's new. With those knots bleeding through, you know, darn well it's new.
You may need more cord or move it over to here or something.
Okay.
Or maybe you've got enough. The fire bead around the hearth opening is quite interesting in this room.
The same way in the
wider.
other.
It's
Yeah.
wider than what you normally see. And this piece is mitered into this piece here. A lot of times you'll find that the floorboard just continues on, and they miter just the outer fire bead into the piece of flooring. But that's not true in this case. Although it appears on both sides that this piece could have been a part of this
Piece.
regular flooring.
Yeah, the grain continues over here. especially.
Over here it does. It doesn't over here. It looks like a separate piece. The mantle in the west room is basically the very same design as the east room, except this pilaster reading in the other room continues into this area and into this area. And you get the vertical smaller reading carrying across just as you have in this area here. But in this mantle, the vertical carries here and on the sides, but you get a slanting across here. This is unusual.
Did you ever see any evidence of anything being nailed or attached to the center panel?
Yes. Of course, they've been painted now, but on almost every one of them, there was a, you could see brad heads, or where brads had been placed, and they were in an unusual shape, as if something had been, maybe a card or a gesso piece was fastened to those panels. You can't see it now because, of course, they've been the paint has.
They're almost like frames for.
But I think
cartouche
there
or
may have
something.
been some decorative
Mm-hmm.
carving or ornamented
Mm-hmm.
piece of some kind fastened to them.
Hmm.
But when they were in their original state, you could see it very clearly. In fact, I was trying to figure out from the shape of it, where the nails were, what it might have been, but I was never able to do it.
Did you ever find any evidence of wallpaper or anything in
No, all of these walls were always painted.
painted?
Yeah, there was never, I didn't find any wallpaper anywhere. And there were never any cornice moldings of any kind. Of course, all of this trim and woodwork had been pulled down
Mm-hmm.
and was laying in a pile in the living room. So it all had to be put back. The mantles were still on the walls, but most of the door trim and window trim and everything else had been pulled off.
Wow.
So it had to be put back.
What about the colors on the woodwork, Bob? What did you?
Read, there's underneath this, the last coat put on here was white paint, and I kept it white.
Mm-hmm.
But underneath of that were at least 3 other coats. Downstairs there was an oak graining
Mm-hmm.
on a lot of it, and underneath that the original color in this house was a gray-green, that federal gray-green. And I found that in places that were hidden by projections or whatever
Mhm.
that concealed it. But I believe there were at least 3 coats of paint, and some of these fireplace mantles had been painted black at one point. I don't know why that was, but they were painted black.
That was very popular
Was it?
in the first part of the 19th century. Sometimes you would find the black being marbleized, but more often you found it just black.
No, it was solid black, Al.
Solid
You're-
black.
You're describing it exactly. That's what this was, especially the downstairs mantle. where that
It's
was.
interesting that the floorboards out in the hall are wider, and in this west room, 1, 2, 3, 4 very wide boards were used, and then the rest of the flooring in the room are the same size as they are in the east room, all the way over to the wall.
Did you find any evidence of carpeting, tack holes?
Yes. At some point, there was something fastened to the floors here, probably a reed or rush type of thing, because every one of these rooms, the room was outlined with thousands of little tacks, which I had to take out. But I think that they had been, over the years, they had used that rush matting or something like that on these floors, because every one of the rooms had, well, I'm not exaggerating, there were literally thousands of those tacks around the very edge against the baseboard.
Bob, over your shoulder, I'm seeing a new piece here.
Al, there was...
This is new.
after I sorted through what had been pulled off the walls, certain pieces of it had been destroyed to the point where I had to have Harry Thompson reproduce it. He ran some, it was just impossible to do anything with what was left, because when they pulled the lath off the walls, they would stick a pry bar under it and pop it, and the thing would split diagonally all the way to the floor, and there was just no, and half of them were gone anyhow.
He did a pretty good job in
Well, he
reproducing
cut
the
knives to match the old molding, but you can see the cutter marks in them.
Yes, you can. That's what I saw from standing
I think a couple of the door frames and at least one piece of this chair rail I had to have reproduced in order to finish out the house. Attic is a short stairway that at one time went to a hatch to allow access to the roof, but I've never had an old house yet that didn't have that, because they, for purposes of roof maintenance, and also I think they probably had problems with chimneys or even chimney fires and needed to get out of that roof. So there are 3 steps up there still intact, and with risers and everything, but the roof has long since been covered over, so there was no access out there now. But I think that was the origins of this story about it having no, because I spent a whole day up there looking at every rafter and joist up there to see if there was any sign of a fastening that may have gone through the roof, and there's nothing. They're clean as a
Now, all of the stairs, the balustrade and the newels are original,
Yes, they are.
and they are small and light and federal
Yeah.
in style.
Yeah, they almost get, some of that federal stuff, it almost gets feminine. It's so small and dainty looking. And this is a good example of it right here.
It's like in
Well, Bob,
furniture.
except for the raised panel Georgian doors, everything else up here seems to fit federal style. But the raised panel doors are carryover from the earlier period.
Board.
This
Pointing
entire
to-
piece here is a piece of pine that thick. It's incredible. I'll show you pictures of it someday when we have the time. And it's just mortared into those 2 cross beams.
Downstairs, you have the very same molding, door case moldings and all that you have upstairs, including the front door.
Boy, I got a problem there. You think some water in there somewhere.
Oh,
Yeah. That's coming off that darn door there. Yeah, I'm gonna have to pull that out of it. That's just a big glob of plaster, by the way. That whole thing is solid. It's solid. I had to replace that.
yeah. Had your front doors survived?
Yeah, this is the original front door.
Okay, so
And there was some graining under it. So
the inside on the rails and stiles, the molding is not applied. It is made directly onto the rails and stiles, which you see in federal style work, but not as often as you see the tacked on mold. This is a flat panel effect. Outside, are they raised?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So inside, this is just federal as can be with flat panels, and outside Georgian raised panels. Are federal style and are very, very interesting vernacular federal style mantles, including the reading that we saw upstairs on the mantles. Here, they are larger, and the 3-part is more pronounced, especially with this projecting out, the shelf projecting out at each end. But they're original, and they are really well made and designed.
Al, I have a question for you. I still have this feeling that this downstairs was retrimmed. I mean, look at the doors. These are the applied.
They're dispensed here.
But is it possible that those columns down there replaced a fluted pilastic?
It is possible. but you would have to carefully remove what is there and study the paint history to prove it one way or another. And I think it's very, very handsome the way it is.
Oh, so do I. I was just curious.
So I don't think we can actually say without investigating what you don't want to do.
No, I don't want to.
But here, more sophisticated than what you have at the second floor level. You do not get the Georgian raised panel door here. But this is a part of the center style. It is not tacked on molding. In the 1820s, in Federal style work, you would expect this certainly to be tacked on. But it is not. It is vernacular. And it was just locally made.
That's tacked on. And I'll tell you how I know that, because I had to, this is
Yeah, that is.
some of that door.
That is. You can see where it's mitered here, and you can actually see the little nails. This is more typical of the flat panel Federal style doors, where the molding is tacked on, usually with little L-headed cut nails.
That's exactly what's there. Because I had to take that one apart. It was falling.
This is one you had to replace.
Yeah, right. And the reason for that, by the way, this door, when it was closed originally, you could see this outside trim, but when you open the door, it was not, there was no, I don't know what all the terminology is here, but this was not here. There was just a raw timber there with that hinge set in it.
Wow.
And I reframed this thing in order to provide a decent looking. But and the inside surface of this door was an original finish, mahoganyized panels, rosewood stiles and rails. I've got a picture of that. So I shouldn't have covered it up, I guess, but.
This is finished on both sides, flat panels with applied molding.
Yeah.
Now, Bob, you said there was the door to what is now the library was in here.
Yeah. As it was originally, the only change in configuration I made in this house was that when this, in its original form, there was a door here. And the problem with that was you had three doors lined up, you had no room to put anything. You can see where the threshold was over in here. But the threshold was worn almost completely through to the floor, and I think the reason was that this was in fact a dining room. I have some early 1800s documentation, 1830s documentation that proves that this was used as a dining room, and I think foods were brought from the basement, carried into that little room, and served out of there, sort of in a butler pantry fashion. But I took the door was there, I put on the other side to make of the wall, which never had it. So, but that was the one basic change I made, but we had to put some furniture somewhere.
Now this molding here, and this window,
Yeah, it's different.
is different. This is almost a more typical Federal style cove molding with the little bead. And a little bead here. But it's all Federal style. And you have same thing around this window, and I guess around.
That's not original, Al.
Okay, but you had Harry Thompson
Yeah.
grind some more knives,
Yeah.
and
That's there because my wife had to have a place to put her heirloom china.
okay, there is one thing that they would not have done in the Federal period,
What's that?
and that is these so-called raised panels here, which you will find in flat panel Federal style doors on the secondary side, and cabinet Well, people who refinish furniture from this Federal style period, the 1790s through about 1830, a 40-year period, when the flat panel was preferred over the raised panel Georgian panels in furniture, corner cupboards and what have you. People in the 20th century, when they take them to someone to have them repaired, they will have that cabinet maker reverse the flat panel, turn it inside so you don't see it, and expose the back side, which is not a true raised Georgian panel, but it has been cut to give the raised effect, so that when it's let into a side stile or into a rail, the edge does not fit tight down in there, and it can move.
So are you saying
But
that
this is a feature that you find in furniture where they have reversed the flat panel.
So you're saying you would not have found that at all there?
You would not, you would have found a flat panel,
Flat panel,
here.
okay.
Now, if you had had a raised panel, I may have to reverse some of what I said. Here you've got a true raised panel.
Yeah.
Therefore, you could get the raised panel here. But somehow, although you have this molded edge along here, with the window muntins and all, it just appears like it's not the raised panel that you have here. This has an upper little lip
Yeah.
that this does not have.
That's because I made the bottom doors and Harry Thompson made the top doors. And his cutter was different than mine. I swear he picked up on that. I didn't think you'd see that. Those upstairs had enough all had. So you literally have to put a prop under the window up there in certain cases because they don't fit like modern windows do. But the edge of this frame is notched with 3 or 4, so you can set it in 3 or 4 different positions. It's a pain in the neck. You need a third arm to do it.
Right.
Really.
You have a similar situation over at the John Mueller house, where the original sash had been cut like that. And I don't know where it occurs, but there is a piece I thought further back. Peter Sandbeck said it had a long spring. I don't know how
Well, this spring is about this long,
okay.
and it's fastened with 2 small nails at the bottom. And it, you know.
When we're at the Wheeler house, I'm going to have to look.
Wait a minute, just a
for that.
second. Let me see. Excuse me, Reed. A collection of these. Some of them are 18th century. The 18th century ones have a roller up here. That's kind of interesting.
Huh. What is there, screw hole or something on
Well,
one?
there are 2
Oh, I
screw holes
see,
at the
yeah.
bottom. Reed. This
This
one
is
was
broken.
broken off. When I took the window out, it just fell out. And but I kept it because it's an interesting piece. But the ones who now I read the sash that I pulled out of the Yates barn before they took it away and gave to you.
Yeah.
Some of those were notched, but this piece up here, instead of being a solid block, was literally a roller.
Huh.
A piece of tubular brass that ran on a pin inside of it. And I don't know what the advantage of that was, but I asked, I don't know whether it was Peter or somebody asked about it, and he said those were earlier than these. That one with the roller was an 18th century form, and this is a later form. But they work. They're very effective.
The mantle in here is Federal style. It is definitely not A.G. Jones. It is Federal. And I cannot see having any other treatment here where this actually projects beyond the main body of the mantle. And so these turned things appear to be original in this case.
They're the same profile as the half columns in the dining room,
Okay.
but these are freestanding.
Then I would say, based on what we're seeing here in this federal style mantle, and you better believe A.G. Jones never put in a mantle like this. Over at the Roberts Vaughan house, what he put in was big and robust and Greek revival.
Yes.
Just as Greek revivalists could do. Now the modillion cornice with dentils and the carved looping whatever fretwork is federal style. It is not Greek revival, and so apparently he did have the capability to do some very decorative work, but I can't see him in this federal style house putting in a mantle like this. If he'd taken a federal style mantle out for some reason, he would not have put this in. And I would say that that is original to the house. The sash windows in this room have smaller muntins than what I have seen upstairs, and yet they are pegged.
I believe all the sash in here in this house now are original sash. I don't see any that I believe are replacements. And there's here and there there's still a good deal of old glass showing here and there.
Upstairs, the curtains, I guess, to some degree.
But
It was a,
But I think you're right. I think the profiles are different.
But I do believe that.
Bob, wasn't there a window, didn't you say there was a window here?
Oh, yes, and interesting. If you go on that end of the house and look at that, there's a blind window over here. When I bought the house, it had been, the house had shutters at one time, and so those shutters stayed closed all the time, but inside there were planks nailed to a window frame. The frame had been put on in there, but this wall was plastered over just like you see it now. That was the one wall that hadn't been pulled out when I bought the place. When I took it out, the sash that had been made for that window was sitting inside between the plastered wall and the planks that covered it. Somebody that had intended to put a window there, somebody had a piece of furniture or something that was tall, and they decided to cover that over. So that's been bricked up outside because it was a pretty rotten mess, and I'm gonna, one of these days I want to get blinds for the outside of this building, and I'll just put those back out there.
With the big windows in this room, there is very little wall space for furniture.
I know.
And for a piece that would go as high as even that desk, it was just essential they have some wall
I'm
space.
sure that's what it was done for. But the original sash that had been made for the opening were sitting inside, and they had a primer coat on, but no color.
So they were all glazed and everything?
Yeah, they
So
were all
that was
ready.
a very early change.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
early.
I took photographs of that when I uncovered it, so I do have that documented at this point.
Now this is a masterpiece created by Bob.
Yeah,
It
right.
is absolutely beautiful.
My masterpiece, all right, but I gotta put my book somewhere.
You know, it's amazing how many houses we saw in Maryland that had libraries in rooms about this size or smaller,
Yeah.
off of like a parlor or a main hall.
Interesting. Even got a slant top desk in here.
Oh yeah, that's a nice old desk.
And Washington
Yeah.
is bronze.
Yeah. Weighs about 900 pounds. There's some more of the
Flat panel door.
You switch, move the door from the other room.
Which is
Casing.
flat panels with no tacked on. Well,
I think the molding is tacked on there.
no,
It's not.
not on this one.
I'll be darned.
It is made into the rails and stiles. But very finished flat panel on both sides, which is a sophisticated way of handling it. Well, I think that basically,
You see it in the heart upstairs.
Well, there's no doubt that the brick mason who did this work, and he maintained his header course, 1, 2, 3 stretchers, header course, 1, 2, and then it changes of course where it projects out. But to bring this projecting brick out with no support other than itself, and to bring it out about 10 inches, when the brick itself is only 7.5 inches, is the sign of a real fine brick mason, a real craftsman. And that is a beautiful feature.
It's also nice that on top of the corbelling, he picks up with the third stretcher course and
Oh,
then
he does.
Yeah.
Indeed.
right on going.
He does indeed.
Not brick. They were a brown sandstone type material, just exactly like they had at Hope Plantation.
Oh, is that
But
right?
they were broken into a million pieces each,
Huh.
and literally dust. And so I pulled them out and I put brick back in. I tried to
And you
find...
laid the brick, you found nice brick,
Yeah,
and you laid them in sand,
Yeah.
sand joint,
Yeah.
except inside the fireplace itself.
well, that's because that floor had crumbled underneath there and we put a cement bed underneath it. But they're laid right on in the heart.
So that's just on the 2 upstairs?
No, that's at all, first floor level.
Oh, I mean,
No, upstairs they were brick,
Uh-huh.
word go. Downstairs they were,
well, I mean up here, yeah.
but I tried to find that and couldn't find it. According to the Hope records, that sandstone or whatever it is was brought from New Jersey, the Hope. But I looked all over the place. I tried the Lux Building Company and some others around here. They said they had it, but when I went and looked at it, it wasn't the right thing. So I just gave up.
It's interesting.
So we were able to put it back at the same level. And the flue from that furnace, or that oven, comes up and comes out of the top of that dome and runs through at an angle and comes out just above the throat of this
Okay.
fireplace, right into the main flue.
Uh-huh.
Bob, let me see that. I can.
And this is the original, we were able to pick off the shape of the original fireplace from it, because it was still...
Let me see that just a second. Maybe I can. Condition of the fireplace.
This thing burns, draws pretty well. I never used it much because I don't like chopping wood.
You can fix the pot roast on that pot.
Yeah, Al, you want to see something rare?
I was just looking at that.
That's a fairly rare piece. It's a bird roaster,
Wow.
and it's an early one.
Wow. That is
Yeah, it's just kind of a nice piece, especially with the drip pan intact. I think that's kind of unusual to find that. Look how they made that drip pan. See how that thing hooks over?
Yeah. I'm gonna have to make a major drawing of that and reproduce
Oh, you
one
can
on my
make that in a
laptop.
minute.
Oh yeah.
It's nothing. There's really nothing difficult about it at all.
was that.
But it's just a these little penny
beautiful
pieces
design.
are nice, aren't they?
So they could use the drippings from the pan to make a gravy.
Well, when they say birds, they really meant small birds. It was either a dove or a quail at best. And songbirds, I learned, were actually killed and cooked this way. So,
Can't imagine there'd be much meat on them.
like this breast, and that's about it.
Well,
But these hooks wouldn't accommodate much more than that.
Even dove, all of the meat is dark.
Mhm.
There is, it's not like quail where you have a white, neat breast.
Here's one for you. What's this?
Is it a potato?
No, it's a potato hook. They used to put potatoes right in the coals, and this was used to fish them out.
Wow.
At least that's what they tell me it is. I don't know.
So they would have used real pot hooks to move that pot from there to somewhere.
They would have used a pot lifter. It would have a Yeah, I already have one in here, Reed. I got that whole box of those things. I don't have one
You
in
don't
here.
have a single one in here.
I don't want.
This is quite a collection.
Well, this is all going to go over on to the second floor of the wheelhouse kitchen.
Wow.
And we're going to have, hopefully have illustrations of how the things were used on the
Wow.
paper.
Oh, and this is what you were talking about. This is what
Yeah,
the man
that's,
bought.
that's the peel.
Exactly what he bought.
Yeah.
And he had some decorative work in this area and something.
Well, this is a rather plain one. I've seen some really fancy ones with twisted things up here and all kinds of
Well,
stuff.
now, is this, did they just take bread out, or did they move the coals around?
No, I think really it was used to remove things from the oven, hot objects, and it could have been, you know, not necessarily bread. I'm sure bread was one of the things, but it could have been containers that were too hot to handle, like pie plates and things like that probably were carried out.
This is really nice. My friend really looked up right in front of me.
Well, that small one over there is a finer piece, though. It's got a beautiful wrench and handle on it. The small one's a very pretty little piece. It's nice work.
It is.
I guess that's where it was welded. Is that what that is, John? Where it
Weld
welded
there.
blade onto the handle or something? I think this, I suspect this was flatter at one time. It's gotten a pretty good curl on it, but I can't imagine it was used like that. Almost shovel-like right now.
Nice.
That is a peel, though. When I bought it, I had it in my head that it might be a salamander, but it's not.
Now, Bob, your door, do you lift it up and pull it out, or does it just, is it?
Yeah, if there's a, you can lift up that and just tilt it out.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't get anybody to make me one, so I Mickey Mouse this one myself. I had the guy up in Williamsburg make this handle, and I went and got a piece of plate steel.
Yeah.
Do you have the one for the Wheeler House kitchen?
No, we've been waiting for a long time now for Ken Schwartz and that bunch up at Williamsburg to make it, but they've never done
We
it
could
yet.
knock one out here in the floor
So,
there.
yeah, we could do this over here. You can do this work, I'm sure, John. So, and
Yeah,
this
that's easy work.
this would work over there.
Yeah.
It's fairly heavy, and I actually had the guy put a couple of pieces of angle in there to carry this at the top, so that it doesn't tilt back on you. So. And now all I gotta do is find the hole. What's going on here? Not finding it. Oh, man, it's not working. I'll put it in later. Something's out of alignment there, but I'm not sure what it is. Let's see. There it goes.
Are these period pieces?
Yeah, they're old.
Wow. Get that.
Wow, that's beautiful.
This is a nice piece. It's got decoration on it. This little thing really works like a charm. It's been used so much it's worn into the right shape for
Yeah, for
grabbing, you know,
Uh,
whip something with it.
Got a nice flintlock up there.
Yeah, that's an early one. I think that's probably French, but I'm not sure. It has no markings on it at all. I bought it at a flea market up in New England. The knife and horn as well. The horn is a good one. It's dated 1804, and it has, I don't know whether it has any significance in terms of its owner or the use of the thing or not, but it has about 6 ship engravings on it, of all kinds of ships.
Oh.
That bottom piece is a horn. This is a good early piece too. That's a good ship diagram on it. Somebody made it. I've never researched that to find out what the Maid of Erin was. It's a United States ship, obviously, but I'm not sure what line. That little flag at the back on that rear mast is supposed to identify the company it belonged to, but I can't make out what's on it.